Hey everybody, welcome in on this Tuesday. We're going to start the show in a few minutes. Always like to let those YouTube and Facebook alerts hit your inbox before we start. Some people get email alerts. Usually it takes a few minutes for those things to hit. Hope everyone's doing well. Today, we're going to talk about how to nurture your portfolio, your rental portfolio in 2022. Some key things that you can do in this spring we're about to hit here. I am not used to this daylight saving time. How many people are used to this? I hate daylight saving time. I hate it. When are we going to end this stupid stuff? It's ridiculous. Hey, Tony, good to see you. I always get them confused. Like, I don't even know what's what anymore, like as far as daylight saving goes. Is it supposed to be... Like, I don't even know what should be the correct time of, like, when is it normal? Like, when is it, you know what I'm saying? Like, when is it supposed to be accurate to what it always has been for thousands of years? Like, I don't know. Is right now that time? Like, is daylight saving happening now, or did it end? I don't know. Can't figure it out. If anyone knows, let me know. JR. Hey there, JR. Okay. All right. Good to see everybody. All right. Rulos, what and where are we buying? Well, that is up to you, my friend. Tony, yeah, it is actually. From what I know, well, at least the area where we are, it's really good. Well, I lived in New Jersey, so in New Jersey, you had really awful water. We actually had to get installed in our house like a reverse osmosis system in the house in New Jersey because of the chlorine and the lead and all of this craziness. Yeah. All right, we ready to kick it off? Welcome in, everyone, to the Real Estate Investing Show. I'm Clayton Morris, longtime real estate investor and founder of the full-service rental real estate company called Morris Invest. Yes, we are a full-service rental real estate company. We build brand new construction homes for our clients, placing tenants in those properties with our property management team. And now is a good time of the year to really start taking stock of your portfolio, because in the spirit of spring arriving this weekend, we're going to be talking about growth. Specifically, we're going to dive into the importance of keeping tabs on your portfolio's growth and some ways to stay on track with your overall goals. You know, it's an interesting time of year, right? Because some of those New Year's motivations maybe have dropped off. I mean, raise your hand, let me know in the chat, drop me a comment below. Like, have you stuck to your New Year's resolutions? Be honest. We're a friendly audience here. Let us know. Like, are there ones that have dropped off that you forgot about? Go back to your list and look at them, because I'm sure some of them have dropped off. I know some of mine have. And it's time to take stock, right? We're about to go into tax season. And there's time in this first quarter to make a few dents in your investing goals right now. Now, as a real estate investor, spring is a great time to revisit your goals for the year. Take a look at some of your progress. Many of you reached out to me. We did a whole New Year's Eve special. We did a whole end of year and planning for the new year. And many of you had really exciting goals. I'm hoping that you're still on track. I know there's been a lot of things to kind of get in our way at the beginning of this year. There's been a lot of bad weather. There's been a lot of bad economic news. Obviously, we have a war in Ukraine right now. So the Biden administration wants to blame your high gas prices on the war in Ukraine, even though that's not accurate at all. But nevertheless, we've got high gas prices. We've got a stock market that's tanking. We've got a lot of things and factors to deal with right now. By the way, we still have a pandemic that is somewhat over, but now is kind of coming back. I don't know. Crazy. But don't let these things, these extracurricular things, derail your personal goals. I know many of you out there are relatively green in the investing space. And that's a time when some of these things can really derail your investing goals, right? When you're green, you're just getting started. A lot of times, and I hate to say this, and I don't mean this you specifically, but I know this is what we do. We look for excuses, right? When you're starting something new and you haven't yet built a habit with it yet, we look for excuses to derail us. It's just what we do. It's human beings, you know? That's why it's hard to build a habit. You might have one or two properties maybe under your belt right now if you're just getting started. That's a great place to start. Congrats on taking action, but it's important that you keep the momentum going. Don't get too complacent in these early days. And we're going to get into a few action steps that you can take today to ensure that you're staying on track with your growth of building your rental portfolio in 2022. It's been like super like pollen-y and allergy-ish. What's the word? Dry? I don't know. And we have this weird like dust cloud happening outside right now. So forgive me, but I'm going to need some water on today's show. So forgive me with the dry throat. I know a lot of people dealing with that right now as spring is in the air. It's getting close to being in the air. So number one on my list for things that you should do to be nurturing your portfolio in 2022 is to revisit your freedom number. Now, I know it sounds a bit like a cliche, but it really is what you need to do. Even Grover agrees with me. Right, Grover? You want to revisit your freedom number. Yeah. Sorry. He hears one little thing outside and then he's going to run. So the first thing you should do is to be revisiting your freedom number. Examine where you are versus where you want to go. This is incredibly important exercise because it keeps you honest and it helps you renew your motivation. Look, the best laid plans happen during the Christmas holiday, right? Again, I'm sorry if you hear the dog. He's a little excited today. So we sit down at Christmas time. We're sitting by the fire. You know, you're drinking your eggnog. You got the Christmas tree up, if that's your thing. You know, everyone's excited. You got a little time off from work, maybe. So you're sitting there with your notepad and you're kind of planning out your goals. And I know I tend to be kind of lofty, you know, kind of really shoot for the moon. I'm a Capricorn, and that's my time of the year. I was born on December 31st. That's my birthday. So for me, that's a good resetting period. So when I sit down at that time of the year, I really kind of shoot for the moon. I'm like, well, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to build a rocket ship. You know, you have all these big ideas. And then life gets in the way, right? Kids go back to school. Life you go back to work, and then January happens, and then there's bad weather, and then there's kids are home from school because of snow or whatever. You get sick, you're at home with the flu, and and then now before you know it, you're in March, okay? And some of those big goals maybe haven't happened just yet, or you're just behind in them. Great. Now's the time at the beginning of this year into spring to take stock of that first quarter. What does the beginning quarter of this year look like for you? Am I 20% of the way there? Am I 80% of the way there? Great. Rejigger some things, okay? Get those numbers in line, and that's a good opportunity for you to reinvigorate your motivation. Take a look back at what you wrote at the end of December or January, beginning of January. Are you in alignment with that? And what's changed in those 3 months? Have you suddenly become independently wealthy that you don't need to do what you plan to do at the end of December? Probably not. So take stock. Renew your motivation. Number 2, another action step that you can take is to have a brain dump session. I love these brain dump sessions. Write down some different ways that you could potentially purchase your next property. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a video on ways to buy real estate that you might not have considered. I'd suggest go back, watch that video, and write down any strategy that you think could possibly be in your playbook for 2022. Remember, not every strategy is going to be a fit for you right now, but you should be able to come up with a few ideas that can help you move forward, okay? Now, these brain dump sessions can be multifaceted. If you follow the David Allen Getting Things Done methodology, the great book by David Allen, Getting Things Done, he's updated it and revised it recently in the past few years. It's called the GTD method, right? And what he does when he sits down with an executive who wants to go through that process, he has them clear their calendar and he wants them to do a brain dump for that first 2 days. Sometimes with these executives, he'll do it for 2 days. That's what I want you to do over the weekend. Sit down, have some coffee on a Saturday morning, and just sit down with a notepad. And I want you to write down everything that's on your mind, everything that needs to be delegated, completed, finished, all of it, okay? And think about all of the ways that you planned to invest, all of the different strategies and tactics and theories, and what do you have to work with? I have a 401k, I have an IRA, I have some money from Uncle Bob over here that I could borrow from. Put it all down on paper. Just get it out of your brain again. By the way, our brains are really a terrible place to store a lot of information. There's a great book called The External Brain. It's really interesting about brain research. It's why we don't need, that's why we like why a key dish when you bring your keys home when you get into the house, or when you're driving a car and you come home. That's why a dish by the front door is so effective, because our brains are not meant to keep track of our keys all day. It's just not how our brains are meant to work. It's just not. We have so many things coming at us with emails and attention that, hundreds of years ago we didn't, right? We had to provide food, we had to get food, and we had to farm, and that's it. Now we've got thousands of things coming at us from all sorts of different directions, and notifications and all of these things. That's why a bowl that you put your keys when you walk in the door is like an extension of your own brain. You can always rely on your keys being in that one bowl. So get everything out of your brain, down on paper. And then I want you to start to collate some of those things. Go through those things. Delegate. These are 5 things I do not need to be doing. Delegate those. I've actually got a few things that I just uncovered recently that I'm like, I don't need to be doing these things. I'm actually getting in the way of success. If I'm involved in these things, then it's going to slow the process down. My team who's watching me right now is probably shaking their heads. Just the way it goes, right? I shouldn't be doing certain things. And there's certain things you shouldn't be doing. Delegate those. But then also getting all of those ideas down on paper as to how you're going to acquire your next rental property. What financing and funding, or is there some kind of a credit issue that you need to work on? Whatever it is, get it down on paper. Number 3 on my list, schedule some check-ins. Set up a meeting with literally anyone and everyone who is involved in your journey and talk about how you can reach your goals for 2022. Get on the phone. I went to the doctor this morning. I have this, I hate to give you the middle finger, but I broke my finger 3 years ago, And over the past like 2 weeks, it's just been like fat, and I'm like, and it's painful. Like when I tap the side of it, I'm like, it's shooting pain. I'm like, did I break this thing again? How? What did I do? And so I went to the doctor. I'm getting x-rays. I do an MRI, and he's like, I don't see a fracture here, but we need to look more closely. And he said, also, you're here because you had an elbow issue? I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm doing a tune-up right now, doc. I'm here, and I want to get everything. I want to just meet with anyone who can help me advance, right? So yes, let's check the elbow also. Let's just get it down. Let's talk about it. Let's get it down. I had a conversation with our accountant the other day. I met with a real estate agent that we're working with on a project. I just want to get it all down. Just have a phone call, get it working, get it moving, getting on the right path. This can be your spouse. It could be a mentor. It could be a business partner. It could be your tax planning team. It could be your point of contact on our team at Morris Invest. When you book a free call with our team, we're going to be friends with you for life. Our goal when you come over to Morris Invest and you just click on the book a call button, you might not even be ready to invest in real estate just yet. That's great. Who cares? We can at least have a conversation with you, figure out your roadmap, kind of get some planning involved, and start that process moving for over the next few years. Again, totally free. We'll spend the 30 minutes with you on the phone for free. So even if it's just my team that's going to talk with you, great. Do it. Just get off your butt and do it, right? Don't wait for something else to come along. Get off your butt and do it. Make a phone call with us. Call your accountant, call your friend, your accountability partner, or a mentor. It's easy to keep putting off these types of things because there's immediate things that are always going to need your attention. You've got to carve some time out to do these things because filling up the gas, mowing the lawn, picking up the kids from soccer camp are always going to be there. Unless you carve out that additional time, you're never going to advance. You're just not. You're not. You can fall into these routines, and we need to break ourselves of this routine. It can be super impactful. Number 4 on my list today is consider leveraging your equity. So as you think about nurturing this portfolio, I want you to take stock of the current properties you have. How many people watching right now own rental properties? Well, what you might not have thought about is maybe now's time for me to cumulatively leverage some of those current assets that I have now and buy additional assets. Look, these interest rates are going to go up. Jerome Powell, Fed chief, has already told us that's going to happen. 25, even 50 basis points this year or more. Now, what does that mean? That means the 10-year federal benchmark rate is going to go up, and then everything else follows it. Credit card rates follow it, so do mortgage rates. Not yet. And even if it goes up a little bit, okay, like we're still at historic lows, so don't panic yourself yet. But take advantage of these interest rates right now. If you've already secured your first property, you may want to consider leveraging the equity to buy your next investment. On my Q&A show, we do a Q&A show. I encourage all of you to go listen to it. I had a question just from one of our listeners the other day. He's got 2 rental properties, and each of them have about $35,000 to $40,000 in equity. Great, that's $80,000. That's basically 2 down payments on 2 brand new construction rental properties. Like if you worked with my team, that's basically what that equates to. So whenever I hear 40 or 45,000, to me, like that's all you need to get started because the financing is going to cover the rest. You might be sitting on equity you didn't even think about right now. Take stock of that. Go through your portfolio or your other assets at the beginning of this year as we head into the spring. It's a powerful strategy because it doesn't require you to save up for a down payment from anywhere else. You already have it. You're sitting on it. Again, see my full video here on the channel about utilizing equity to learn more on that process. Number 5 on my list today is to outsource. One big mistake I often see new investors make is they're trying to do it all. I don't care who you are or how smart you are. I don't care if you're as much of a genius as me. You can't do it all. As the CEO of your real estate business, you need to be focused on big scale things like growth and planning. Don't get bogged down by tasks that you could easily be outsourcing. What I want you to do is look at the things that you're doing repeatedly. Now, just imagine, I'm going to just use a business analogy here for a second, and then I'll talk about like property management in a second. But just think about, let's say you run a business, okay? And you do our brain dump that we talked about at the beginning, which is everything that's currently on your mind, everything that you're currently doing. Now, you could do this for your business. Okay, so sit down and I want you to write down everything that you're currently doing yourself as a real estate investor. And you are a business owner, by the way. If you're a real estate investor, you own a business. Write down everything that you are currently doing in that process. Everything. From, let's say you're even doing stuff yourself. You're screening tenants, whatever it happens to be. But let's say you run a business, okay, separately. Let's just say you run a, it's a good example. Let's say you run a design agency, okay? Let's say you have an independent, you're a designer, you make graphics, you work from home, you've got a few people on your team that are spread out across the country, and you run a business, you run that business. Make a list of everything that you're doing as the owner of that business, from filing taxes to clicking on this website every day, writing this piece of your newsletter every day, this piece of social media every day, whatever it is. What are you doing? Write it all down. And as mundane as it might seem, even buying stamps, put buying stamps on that list if you're buying stamps, licking those stamps if you're licking those stamps. Do it all. Put it all on the list. Then what you'll want to do is categorize them, okay? Look at that entire list of stuff you're doing. Let's say there's 100 things on that list that you are doing. Break them down into different categories where you can begin to think about outsourcing and hiring. Okay, what I mean by categories is take all the things that would fall into a marketing category, okay? And then hire marketing team members that would fill those spots. There's 10 things that you're doing where you're doing social media management, you're writing copy, you're writing blog posts yourself, you're taking whatever it happens to be, categorize that as marketing and then hire someone in a marketing capacity to do those 5 or 10 things. Then your life will expand tremendously and your business will grow tremendously. Then what about accounting? Are you handling all the invoicing and counting the pennies and balancing the checkbook and all of that stuff? Put all the accounting things into a section, okay? And then outsource that. Hire a CPA, hire an accountant. Your life will dramatically improve. See, what people don't realize is that when you then outsource that stuff, you open yourself up for more you're the business, you're the pie in the sky, blue sky vision person, right? Now you can start to think about ways to expand the business, working on the business, not in the business. And the same thing goes for real estate investing. Are you managing properties yourself? Are you screening tenants yourself? Are you doing all of those things yourself? What about the accounting piece of this for your rental properties? Are you doing all of those things yourself? The rent collection, the taxes, the LLC structure, all of that stuff. Are you doing it all of yourself? If you're spending time in these areas, you are stunting your growth. Think about areas that you can outsource. Write them all down, categorize them in the different chunks that we talked about. Hire somebody. Hire somebody. Go on Indeed.com and hire somebody. Go to Upwork. I recommend hiring somebody who can work remotely for you part-time and take on those skills. Very, very simple to do. And one thing I would also suggest while we're talking about business growth is, if you think, how am I going to teach somebody else how to do that? It's very simple. Just when you're about to sit down and do that task, record yourself on a video, like on a Loom video or using your webcam, and screen capture exactly what you do. Say, step 1, I open this website. Step 2, I grab this picture. Step 3, I write a little blurb. Step 4, I schedule this Twitter post. Step 5, I publish. Okay, there. Repeatable. Write it down in a Google document, and then you're going to share that with the new person that you're hiring. Okay, I'm not very good at this. I could be better at this. There's a lot of, over the years, I was really good at it, and then there's just disparate parts of my business that don't lend itself necessarily to doing it that systematically anymore. But there are definitely things that I do every day that are repeatable, that I could hire out for different parts of my business. So I encourage you all to do it. Maybe like me, I need to do that for certain parts of my business right now. Number 6 on my list, don't get distracted. Because when you're distracted, you get pulled in all these different little directions. If you've already found your niche, you've got a cash flowing rental property that's building up your net worth. Great. Now Don't try to go out and reinvent the wheel. This is shiny object syndrome, guys. This is what happens. You've got 2 rental properties, okay? Now you're like, well, should I get another, like a third single family, or should I go and buy a horse farm? That's what happens. I'm telling you, it will happen. Everyone watching right now who has like 1 or 2 properties, you're going to get shiny object syndrome. It's going to happen. You're amazing if it hasn't happened to you yet, but you'll be, on some forum somewhere reading some blog post, and you'll read about mobile home parks, or you'll read about 100-unit apartment complexes, and you'll say to yourself, well, I've got 2 single families and they're great. They're producing for me. I've got 2 duplexes. They're great. They're producing for me. But I read a blog post about mobile home parks, or I read a blog post about storage units, or I read a blog post, or I saw somebody talking about raw land. Maybe I should do that. And then you'll get distracted, and instead of continuing the success that you've already seen, you'll derail it. You cannot have success running in 2 different directions. You cannot. It's like tug of war, right? You can't, if you're like, I'm going this way. I'm going this way to success with owning single families or duplexes. I'm going this way. Now, you've already owned 2 of them, right? And now suddenly John comes along and tells you to go this way, over to mobile home park investing or whatever else, other crazy stuff, and you start going this way. Well, guess what? You can't, you're not running in this direction anymore. It's hard to walk and chew gum at the same time. Trust me. Your attention and your interests are going to be derailed. And I've heard it time and time again from our investors that we work with at Morris Invest. I've had clients who own 10 properties, single families or duplexes, and they're doing great. And then suddenly they decide that they're going to go off and do some syndication deal. And then they try and go and do it. And then we've had them come back like a year and a half later, and they've told us, I don't know what I was thinking. I shouldn't have done that. I wish I would have just stayed the course. Now I've wasted a year and a half by doing something stupid. Now, but if you're really passionate about going in this other direction, go 100% in the other direction then. But don't do it halfway. And I'm telling you, it's going to happen to you. Just stay the course. It's fine to diversify, but most successful investors I know have largely stayed focused on one strategy, like I have. Single families and duplexes has been my, residential real estate has been my carte blanche. It's worked for me. Especially as you're getting started. Keep that momentum going. Keep it going, keep it going. With all that being said, I want you to see you reach your goals, but I also don't want you to try to go too quickly because investing is a long game. So don't put yourself in a position where you're over leveraged or you're financially vulnerable. I've seen a lot of people get burned, especially investing in the stock market. And craziness happens and they get margin called, they get craziness. I don't want you to do that. Don't over leverage yourself. Don't do anything stupid. I don't want you to see you in a pinch over a tenant turnover, right? Like a tenant moves out, it's going to happen at some point. Now suddenly are you totally belly up and upside down because a tenant moved out? You need to put in some new carpet? Are you so over leveraged you can't handle a new water heater in a property? That should be a part of doing business. If you're over leveraged and that's painful for you, then there's a problem, right? So be smart about all of this. Growth is important, but it's not a race. There's no one beside you. You are racing against yourself. There's no, don't pay attention to the competition in this. Set a goal that allows you to build your wealth at a sustainable rate, slowly, strategically. As always, if you need help investing in your investing goals or figuring out what's next, my team is ready to help you and take a call. So again, just book a call with our team. It's totally free. Go to the website on your screen. Which is morrisinvest.com. Just go to morrisinvest.com, click on the book a call button. A little calendar will pop up. You can put in your email address and the time of the week or, next week, next month, whatever you want to do, and click the time and put in your phone number and your email address correctly, and we'll call you at that time. We can talk about your goals and talk about real estate investing and take you one step further in that regard. And also, I should mention, please be sure to check out all of the other videos we have here on the channel. They're all free. They're all meant to help you grow. financially, mentally, through and financial education that you don't get in school. So please check out all of those other videos here on the channel. John says, I needed this chat. My brain has been is pulled like that. Appreciate you talking about it. Yeah, John, it's one of those things where it's going to happen, right? It happens to the best of us. It happened to me, John. Like I had success with, I think my first two rental properties that I had. My first 2 properties, single families, and they were great. They were rented, cash flowing, consistent. They're boring, right? It's not like I just bought a casino. They're just single family homes. That's what I want. I want boring, long-term, hedge against inflation, right? And they were doing great. And then I don't know, some real estate friends of mine, like, oh, I'm telling you, Clayton, you've really got to be involved in this syndication deal that we're putting together. So I go down this rabbit hole of like taking phone calls and meetings and all of the stuff about syndication deals and meetings and blah, 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 blah. It took up so much of my mental capital. And in the end, I remember I was literally at dinner with my family at a seafood restaurant. And that unfortunately was the time when this call was scheduled. And I had to like keep muting myself. I was on this call talking to this investor about this syndication deal and multi-unit apartment complex. And I didn't enjoy the meal and I was a pain. It's like, I'm just taking away time from my family for a shiny object. The whole goal of real estate investing is that I'm sitting there with my family eating dinner and these 2 properties that I owned at the time were cash flowing and doing fine. But instead, I'm worried about something else, thinking about some shiny object, not paying attention to my family, which was the whole goal of passive income. So I don't have to think about it and cash is coming into my account. But instead, I'm there distracted by some shiny object. Don't do it. It's going to happen to you. It's very easy for it to happen. Nicole says, yes, correct. Yeah. So here's a very important point, guys. Please, when you book a call with our team, please put the correct email and the correct phone number. Because when we go to call you at that time, it's very easy with one number to be wrong that the phone number doesn't work. And then we'll get emails from people that said, hey, I had a call booked, but no one ever called me. It's because you gave us the wrong phone number. So please make sure you're typing in the correct phone number. When you come to our website, just click on the book a call button. Again, a calendar will pop up. You pick the time based on your time zone, where you are, then put in your correct phone number and email address, hit continue, and you'll get an email, a welcome email, and all of that. Just confirm that your email is correct and your phone number is correct. That way, when we call you, it's all good to go. So there won't be any issues, okay? It's my little disclaimer. It's very easy to type a phone number wrong. Because how often do we type our phone numbers, Any other questions here? Let's see here. What is Jennifer says? I'm wondering how soon after my first purchase should I jump in and take out a second, much smaller loan for that second rental property? I plan to use the equity from property 1 and 2 to purchase 3. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes perfect sense, Jennifer. Snowball method, right? I mean, that's what I did. It's really up to you and based on the equity position. So that's what I would say, is to look at what equity do you have to work with. So if that first property enables you to then buy the second property kind of right away, go for it. But if it's going to take a year based on the numbers, don't force it. But the goal is you want to just keep snowballing these. Just kind of, now you're going to kind of create like a hamster wheel. You just want to keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. I go back to a buddy of mine named Abe from New Jersey. He was a real estate investor. And he is a real estate investor. And back when I was starting out years ago, I was wholesaling properties at the time. And to build up that capital to buy my first rentals. And he told me about his first deal. He bought like a duplex in New Jersey, bought it for like 80 something thousand, but it needed like 150,000 in work. It's New Jersey. It's expensive, you know? So then he put that work into it and then refinanced it, pulled out the equity from that fix up, right? And then rolled it into his next fixer upper. Now you don't have to do that because you're not doing fix and flip deals, right? Maybe you are, which are very hard to do. And it's very hard to find the inventory and to keep that. I don't recommend it. I'm not a real estate advisor. I'm not a financial advisor. Are there real estate advisors? I don't think there are. Because then you're only as good as your next property, and you're constantly having to find deals, and it's such a pain. Contractors are incredibly hard to find right now. Materials, the cost of materials, if you're doing these as sort of one-off properties, it's very expensive to do unless you're doing it at scale. So I would say, just based on the equity position, Jennifer, and what you're able to get, because again, interest rates are going to go up. And so if you're able to lock in a good deals now, let me come back to this. It's a good question, Jennifer, on a number of levels, because number one, remember, there's the 3 stages of real estate investing, right? There's buy, own, and cash flow. So you're in the buying phase, and you can be in the buying phase for the next, 15, 20 or 15 years. Like if you're young and you're not worried about the cash flow. Most new investors, when they're starting out, they think so much about the cash flow that they forget about the fact that they're acquiring assets as a hedge against inflation and for a tax benefit of owning these assets, right? So they often forget that's why they're doing it. So what I encourage you to do is, remember, you're buying them. Now you got a hedge against inflation. You also got a tax benefit because you're depreciating that asset. Forget the cash flow just yet, right? That'll come on this property, right? That'll eventually happen. But right now it's not happening because you've got to pay down that loan, so forth. So just wait on that. Just wait on the cash flow piece of this. And I would just try to acquire as many assets as you can at this stage of the game. That would be the goal. Hope that helps. Silas. Let me finish this, Jennifer, here. First property has little equity, so that's why I'm sort of in a hurry to purchase number 2. This way I can double up on the equity resources needed for 3. Yeah, as long as you're not over leveraging yourself, that's my only concern. Just, people, make sure the way that you protect yourself is make sure that you're buying in markets that are the best rental markets in the country, where there's a demand, there's low crime, there's high job growth. You're protecting yourself. Like where we build our properties at Morris Invest, that it fits that bill. It's in those markets. It's in West Texas. It's in those areas where even in a pandemic and an economic downturn, as CNBC wrote, those areas where we invest are recession-proof, recession-resistant, right? So make sure you're not in an area where, oh my God, what happens if the oil refinery closes and everyone who worked at the oil refinery was one of my tenants and now they're all gone, now they can't pay for their rent. So just make sure you're not over leveraged, just make sure that with your taxes and expenses, like you're covered so that the cash flow is covering you, and then take advantage of that equity. You cannot eat equity. Hope that helps. Silas, can you please shed some light on purchasing rental properties with non-recourse loans with your SDIRA? We have full videos. I hate to kind of go too deep into a rabbit hole with that. Let's link it up here in the chat. We have full videos here though in the description below, or in the chat here. Sorry. I'll have our team link it up here if we can on how to purchase properties with non-recourse financing within your self-directed account. So please check that out. I will say there's no real difference in other than you're buying it inside of a retirement vehicle. And there it is. There's the link right there that we just put in the chat for you, Silas. If you want to watch that video later, bookmark that and watch that later on non-recourse loans and video there. Let's see. Scott says, hello, Clayton. Have you used or know anyone who's had success with home equity companies like Point, Unison, or Home Tap? I personally, I've definitely heard of some success with home tap. My team probably would have my team that deals with our financing department would have way more clarity on success in that regard. Anybody from my team want to weigh in on that here in the chat about any of those particular home equity companies? I personally haven't used them, so I can't speak to them. But maybe one of my team members has on the financing side, because we work with over like 100 different banks on the financing side. And I know we work with a lot of clients that use the home equity for down payments, etc. Let's see. Oh, here's a question from Stephanie Birmingham. I just ordered your book. Awesome. Oh, I can't wait to hear about it. It's arriving today. Thank you. My book is How to Pay Off Your Mortgage in five years. My question is similar to Kuprentis. How did you decide what to pay off first? Rental property or personal home? Again, we tackled this in the book, but I want to think about the biggest liabilities in my life. Like, what is the biggest liability? If it's a home you live in, that's a liability. That's not a performing asset, right? So the performing asset is gaining equity because my rental property has a tenant in it who's paying my mortgage. The only person paying the mortgage in my home that I live in is me. So I'm a tenant in my own prison in a way, right? So now I'm paying down my own home loan, and that's a liability. So are there ways that you can, I look at trying to do both simultaneously. Like, I want to invest and I want to pay down debt simultaneously. But it's all a matter of balancing these financial products, Stephanie. It's a matter of seeing the numbers. You know, the numbers don't lie. Look at them on the spreadsheet. See what makes sense to tackle first. I know there's the argument to be said, some people that believe, you know, I know Dave Ramsey and others believe the sort of like low-hanging fruit. And that's what I did back in the day when I had a lot of debt, was I tackled that credit card that had the least amount first. Even though the interest rate might have been lower than some of the other ones, it's a psychological thing. So some people will say, okay, I want to go after the low-hanging fruit first. But I would argue the opposite is true, because it's financial products. I want to go after the highest interest rate first, because that's doing the most damage to me. So look at what's causing you the most pain and try to go after that, right? Again, the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Let's see. Here's Avengers team. North Avengers Adam. Hi, Morris. When and how can you take money out from a rental property? When and how? When is, like I just said to Jennifer, when there's enough equity there. You know, like if you only have $2,000 worth of equity, it might not be worth it to do it, right? But if you've got some equity, remember, they're going to give you a loan to value ratio of about 80% loan to value, right? So let's say the house is worth 100, a bank is going to give you 80% of that usually. Like if let's say the house is paid off, right? You own a house, it's worth 100,000. A bank is typically in a home equity line of credit situation going to give you 80% loan to value. So they'll give you 80,000. They're not going to give you 100, because that would be 100% loan to value. So they give you 80. Now you have 80 to work with. To me, that's like two down payments on a two different rental properties. Now they'll each start cash flowing a couple $1,000 a month, right? So now you've turned that 80,000 into two additional performing assets that are going to cash flow each month. That's what we teach you to do at our company. So that's one way to look at it. When is just a matter of how much equity you think you have in the property. You know, like, and what's usable for you. Like for me, like is $50,000, $50,000 in equity to me, again, that's a down payment on a new construction rental property. So if you've got $50,000 in equity that you can utilize immediately, go for it, you know, in my opinion. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't tell you when to do it or what to do it or how to do it. I can just say that that's what I would do, you know, that's what I did do. I can only speak from experience. And then, of course, you just, like we just had from one of our members here, just asking about these different companies, that do home equity lines of credit. I think one of them was Unison. The other one was Home Tap. And the other one was, I forget the other one off the top of my head, just off of memory here. But check into those companies. Ask them, say, hey, I've got this property. Can you take a look at it? They'll do an analysis online to find out what they think the value is. They're not going to even send anyone out to the house just yet. They're going to see how much do you owe on it and what is it worth? And is it even worth putting together a loan for you, a home equity line of credit for you? Let's see. Joseph Scalise. Is it possible to take a HELOC or home equity loan against multiple properties at once? Yes, anything is possible with loans. You just need to find the right banks. You can do portfolio. You can do a portfolio loan against your properties. And also, are fixed rate HELOCs offered by anyone? Yes. And you'll also find that these banks, this very same bank that offered you the variable rate, will also offer you the fixed rate. But again, these banks want your business, and so all you need to do is shop around. There are so many banks. I would recommend working with local small banks for home equity loans. Try them first, because a lot of times they're willing to be a little bit, I don't want to say riskier, but they're willing to be a little bit more creative than some of the bigger institutions that just want to make you fit into a certain spreadsheet, Let's see. Jennifer had one more question. Last question, she says. I know the importance of purchasing using an LLC, but how hard is it to find a lender that will offer business loans? Those I've spoken to so far will only offer personal loans. Jennifer, I can only speak to like the lenders that we work with on for our properties at Morris Invest. We work with non-recourse lenders for that situation, so it's very easy. Like we've had business relationships with them for years, and you have to buy it in an LLC with a non-recourse loan. So it's not difficult. It's not difficult at all. But we built those relationships. So it just depends on where, because you have to remember non-recourse financing is very specific to the asset itself. They don't care about you, Jennifer. They care about the asset. And so they're going to if they're doing non-recourse financing, they're going to make you buy it in an LLC, okay? And they're going to fund the asset itself. And they're going to be very aware of the demographics, the crime in the area, the job growth, all of those things before they are ever going to put their money into it. Because what happens if you disappear and leave town is that asset now goes into their banking portfolio of assets. So they absolutely want it to be top notch, which is why I love non-recourse financing, because it's like having an extra set of eyeballs saying, hey, this is a great investment, because it's their money. It's not yours, by the way, right? Like, think about that sometimes, right? As a new investor, you think, well, how do I know it's a good investment? Well, here's one way you know. It's not even your money. You're putting up a down payment. They're carrying the bulk of it, this bank over here. And if this bank has analyzed the deal, analyzed the appraised values, has sent their team out to look at the property, analyze the cash flow from the tenant, all of those things, analyze the demographics, the job growth, the crime, they're doing all the work. And you're getting the benefit of it. So that's why I love non-recourse financing. It's really like having a seasoned investor signing off on your deal, basically, if you want to look at it that way. Joey has a quick point here about fixed rates. Joey says, hey, Joseph, take a look at PenFed. PenFed. I can't remember if the HELOCs are fixed rate, but they do investment property HELOCs. There you go. So check them out. PenFed. See if I can even find them here. PenFed. Yep, here you go. PenFed Credit Union. I can't vouch for them because I don't know. I've never worked with them. But give them, penfed.org. Penfed.org. Check them out. Might be an opportunity for you to. Again, there's so many banks out there that are. You just gotta. if you call one of them and you hit a wall, I mean, you got, get back on the phone. Call number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Call until you get a yes. Because if you stop at no, like I just don't believe in. I just don't believe in that. Let's see here. Sorry, my eyes are a little tired today, so it's hard for me to see across here. JR, good question here, JR. What's the best way to monitor equity to approximately know when it gets to a high enough value to take advantage? Well, I don't think so much about the equity itself, is like, what is your financial goals? So I come back to doing your financial freedom cheat sheet and looking at your balance sheet. Forget what the equity position is. Like, what are your goals? So if you know, based on your family finances and cash flow, what you can tolerate from a risk reward benefit, like what is the cash flow coming into my family? What am I able to leverage? That should dictate your next step. And then if you say, okay, well, what I need next is I need $40,000 or $50,000, and I know that I have equity in this particular home right now to do that, and the numbers make sense because you've done the balance sheet, you've done your numbers, what you're safe with, what are you willing to risk? What are you willing to take on as far as a debt burden to make, to acquire this next asset? That should be the thing that leads you, JR. Hope that makes sense. Let's see. Joey wants to know, have any of your clients or friends used a personal line of credit instead of a HELOC for a down payment? Joey, yes, absolutely. It's not as common, but yes, for sure. And my team, like, I'm not on the phones, with our portfolio managers and everyone who are working with our clients on a daily basis, who know the ins and outs of each of their portfolios. But Nicole, maybe you could just jump in here and let me know, do we have a lot of clients? I won't say a lot, but do we have a lot of clients using personal loans, personal lines of credit instead of a HELOC? But I've definitely had friends and investor friends that have done it. I've never personally done that. Actually, that's not true. Actually, I guess the line of credit that we struck and set up was a personal line. But it was for the business. I'm trying to think it was personal or business line. Yeah, Nicole says not a lot that I'm aware of. So not a lot. And they are, frankly, they're harder to get. So, yeah, I haven't heard of it a lot. It's just like using this other strategy, using assets that you have. This is how wealthy people do it, though. You have to think about Michael Saylor. Okay, Michael Saylor, who is Bitcoin billionaire, who is the founder of MicroStrategies, right? When he started buying Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin and gold and other things under MicroStrategies, under the company, he doesn't sell the Bitcoin. He's like, why would you sell real estate? Why would you sell Bitcoin? Why would you sell your gold? Those are assets, right? You don't sell your real estate. You borrow against it. And you don't borrow, you don't do it against your own name. You do it against these assets that you have. He's like, so many of these people, I see these guys on Instagram and stuff, they stand in front of a Lamborghini and they're buying a Lamborghini with their cash. They're like, I just bought this with cash. Instead, why wouldn't you use the assets you have and get loans against those assets? Don't give up the assets. That's the thing you're working for, right? Yeah, JR, what I would do is I would talk with, I don't know which team member you're working with on our team, JR. Since I bought my first Morris Invest rental property, I wanted to know how to best monitor the equity on that property to take. I would say our team is constantly analyzing the market conditions, and so I would just have a conversation with your team member that you're working with on that, because that's what we do. That's what we help people do, is to continue to build that portfolio over the years. So we'll kind of be working with you on that. So don't be afraid to have that conversation. Tell them Clayton sent you to have that conversation. They'll take care of you on that. Yeah, Haley is amazing on that. So you're working with Haley on our team. That's great. Joey just says, Clayton, thanks, Clayton. Nicole, just keeping options open. Need to get a little more equity in my personal home in order to be eligible for HELOC. Heard PenFed has a great personal line of credit as well. Again, all of these are just different financial products, right, Joey? So it's like I like to think of it as like Hawkeye. I don't know if you watch the Hawkeye. I'm a huge Hawkeye fan from Marvel, but they did the Hawkeye limited series on Disney Plus, and he has the arrows in his quiver, right? And he has all these different trick arrows, some that shoot globs of stuff, some that blow up stuff, some that put nets around things, It's just another arrow, another trick shot, in your quiver of things, different financial products. And we had business lines of credit through Fund and Grow. We had cash. We had 401k leverage loans. We had home equity lines of credit. We had, I think we had a business line of credit. So all of these things you should be able to have access to in your quiver. And just thinking through those things, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Good for you. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Go back if you're late to the show today. Go back and rewatch the full content. I went through 5, 6, 7-ish different strategies for pruning and growing your rental portfolio in 2022. So as soon as this live stream is done, you can go back and just click rewind and watch from the beginning, where we dove into these strategies and tactics. And then we're here live every Tuesday at noon Eastern time. Plus, we have tons of great content on the channel for you to take advantage of. I should also encourage you to come on over to our website. If you're ready to book a call with our team for free, we're happy to jump on the phone with you. Again, come here to morrisinvest.com. Again, you see right here, it's just morrisinvest.com. Click on the book a free call button, and what'll happen is a little calendar will pop up. You pick the time where your time zone is, click continue, and then you put in your email address, you'll put in your phone number, make sure you put in the correct phone number, and then we will call you at that time. You'll get a welcome email, so make sure you check your spam folder or your junk folder, because we'll send you a welcome email and confirmation with also a PDF download where we want you to go through and download and work on your financial freedom cheat sheet as well as your personal goals sheet. It's totally free, but that will be sent to you after you book a call with us. So that way you're ready for the phone call when we jump on the phone with you at the time that you select. Again, totally free. Happy to help you guys in any way that we can. Thanks again, guys. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Joseph. Thanks, Vulcanista, Cuprentis. Sorry to say screen names. Joey, Nicole, JR, Annalicia, on and on. Oh, Annalicia had a question. Let me see if I can get hers. Do you have to have a 401k for a non-recourse loan? 401k for a non-recourse loan? No. Not at all. Not at all. Nope. Okay, guys. Hope that helps. We will see you next time, everyone.